Yeah, so I'm gonna make a video speaking a little bit about the dating market, why things are how they are right now, or my opinion on it at least. There's actually so many different reasons why it's like this right now. Um, if you look at the statistics, like there's the most amount of like single people in their 20s more than there's ever been. Birth rates are declining, more divorces than there's ever been. It's just in a worse state than it's ever been. Um, why is that? As I said, there's many reasons, probably more reasons than I can cover in one video. And it's not just any one of these reasons, but let's get into it. So, for example, if you look at it in the traditional sense, and I'm not saying just the traditional way is the right way, but if you look at it, usually the masculine or the man is more valued for their strength, their ability to provide, protect their family, protect what they've acquired. And the feminine is more about nurturing what the man has provided, making what he has provided more beautiful and aesthetic. Like women are valued for their beauty and their aesthetics, and some women like they might say, "Oh, that's not just all it is," or of course that's a very simplified version, but you can't deny that if people would say, "Ah, are men beautiful or women beautiful?" No, women are beautiful. Men, you can maybe call them handsome, which to me that almost means like, yeah, they don't look like a beast. You know what I'm saying? They look they're all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they're handsome, but you're not really gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like, women is actually beautiful. Like, it's about beauty. It's about, yeah, just cherishing the moment. It's more about enjoyment. It's more like soft, and then the masculine's more hard. The masculine is more about like doing what's necessary, and then the woman's more about, oh, like let's go on that trip, like that trip or that picnic or something. Not because like it's really necessary for our survival, but just for the fun of it. Actually, nurturing what the man has provided. Like the man will go out there, get the food and so on, get the house, and then the woman will turn it into a home. But then, see this kind of dynamic, how it's always been, or maybe it's not always been, but you know how it kind of is usually, so to speak, has been completely undermined in the last few decades and so on. Of course, I think that the illusion that things were perfect in the past, that's also a lie, because there was a lot of time in the past where the women were completely oppressed as well, and the conditions are completely different today. Like for example, like if you go back like thousands of years, then it's all about hunting and so on. And who knows, maybe the women were hunting a little bit as well, but it was way more physical. So that's where the men, their strength came was way more valuable, because they could go and like hunt that lion or hunt that whatever, that gazelle that they needed to, that maybe the woman couldn't do, and provide it for the women. And then they'll give the woman children, and then the woman will kind of nurture it and so on. Then the man's gonna protect it. Um, and let's say if you go back like 100 or 200 years, then there were a lot of women couldn't work. They couldn't even vote. So of course they had to rely on the man. And yes, that led to some oppression, which was negative. But then at least see, I'm not saying that both sides should really depend on each other, but there is a certain codependence. And the woman needed the man for that, and the man needed the woman for what she can offer, because the woman can offer things that the man can't as well. Um, However, now the way things are with this feminism movement and so on, and a lot of this is good because like it gives women more of a choice. Like they can choose to work or not work. Now they actually have like more of a choice of who um, they want to be their partner and so on. Whereas before, like certain times it'll be arranged marriage, or you know what I'm saying, it was all just purely out of necessity. They might not even really like the man that, or love the man that they're married to, but it was just about only necessity and survival. However, there's also negatives that came with this feminism movement and so on, and this idea that now women can work and so on, and that's good, right? But then there was a lot of other tricky reasons and insidious and nefarious reasons why that happened. Of course, if there's two people, if women and men are working, now you can tax more as well. That's one thing. And then if the woman and the man are both busy working, then you have less time to nurture the children. Then you have to put the children in the school, and then the governments and so on can program your children however they want them to be, so on and so forth. That's just one little aspect. Also, realize that, for example, if a woman can now earn as much as a man, and if you look at a lot of the jobs nowadays, like in the office, like office jobs and all of these kinds of things, like strength, yeah, maybe like one man maybe can do it better than, but like a lot of these jobs that there are nowadays, like pure brute power has, like, there's no benefit to that. Like brute power, like being able to lift 100 or 200 kilos is not going to help you type more emails. Yeah. So women can kind of earn as much or nearly as much as men, or as much as men, or whatever, right? And in fact, a lot of these jobs even are better for women because women in their nature are more submissive, and some women might hate that, but they're gonna actually, they're more likely to do those emails like the way it's supposed to be done, as opposed to that man. Because that man, like, yeah, he might do it, but then it's something like men are more likely to go against the grain and not do what they're supposed to do. So a lot of these jobs are more even geared to women now, and that's why some women, a lot of women are outperforming men. And I'm not saying it's because women, I'm not saying that. See, I would say men and women are equal, of course, but the conditions, same way the conditions were kind of better for men in the past, so to speak, and worse for women, now it's kind of better for women. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but then see that there's consequences to this, because now let's see if some women are earning more than men or equal to it, then now there's not really a need for the man to provide for them. Because the government and the society is kind of built in this cocoon to where they can even get, for example, like loads of attention from men online on social media. They can get support for, like, even in the workspace or office spaces or whatever. Women want to deny this, but men are way more likely to help that woman, even if she wasn't as competent as that man. Loads of men are going to try and help her. Not even, like, even just with the prospect of maybe being able to get with her. They have the incentive to be nice to her. And if you go in the city and so on, some women will hate me for this, but you'll see a lot of beautiful women in the city and in the offices and so on, and it's clear, like, it's you might not want to hear it, but it's clear that some of these women have just been accepted to that job just for that beauty to even give the office a bit of a nicer vibe, if you get what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that women isn't competent. Of course, a lot of them are, because they have the same education and everything now as well. But essentially, my point is that need for the man to provide for them has been undermined. So now there's like, most of the men are actually below kind of a lot of the women, and then there's only like 1% of men who earn way more, and so women are all chasing that 1%, right? And obviously it's always kind of been like this, the hypergamous nature. But imagine back like 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, and then there's just, the woman will only see like maybe 20 or 100 men like in their village or something. So yeah, like they might want the best man, but there's not too much competition. It's just like, they're only gonna meet like a few people, and then they might meet a guy who's good enough, and then yeah, it's settled like this. But now it's like men are competing with not even just men in their little village now. They're competing with men across the whole world. And social media and the internet has just magnified this times a million. Because even, for example, they've proven many times with these studies that, like, if you actually, of course, we want more choice, right? Like, it's better to like be able to choose between like 5 different styles of clothing rather than just one style. Of course, that's better. But then if you have the choice of like 1,000 different types of food, or 1,000 different types of clothing, or 1,000 different types of houses or whatever, too much choice actually paralyzes the person who's choosing. And now with social media, you can see thousands and millions of potential partners, or like, let's say women are seeing so many millionaires on social media, the top 1%. Of course, that's what the algorithm's going to show to them, because that's the most stimulating. And then all the males are seeing the top, like, most beautiful women. And then everything is by comparison in our mind. We only know how to measure things and compare. It's all by comparison. So once you've seen like this thing, and it's in our nature to always want more, always want better. So if you're seeing this now, and then you're comparing against like the women that you're seeing on the street or something, but you're seeing this woman online, then you're not going to be satisfied with this more average woman or something. And the woman's not going to be satisfied with the average guy. And even they could, like, a woman might meet like a really good guy, and the guy might meet a really good woman, but then they're not going to commit because of the idea of the potentiality of someone better. There will always be the possibility of meeting someone better, and this idea of the one. And then they think, oh yeah, this guy is good, but are they the one? There's no such thing as the one. But obviously these things are so deeply programmed. And of course, inflation, the cost of living crisis. Even if you get, one sec. Even if you get, what's it called? A couple together, they might still be struggling to pay the bills and rent and so on, because everything's so overinflated. The cost of living crisis is insane, right? So even the idea of one man being able to provide, like just a man being able to provide everything. See, it's because certain ideals from the past, it takes a while for them to change and like dissipate and so on. So there's still these ideals of the traditional man and the traditional woman and so on. But in these current conditions, this modern society, hoping for something like that is just, it's almost somewhat delusional, because women still want, even though now women earn as much as the man in most cases, like in like a modern first world like country and so on, they still want the man to pay for all the dates. They still want the man to pay for most of this and that. And then even though everything's changed as well, then the man still wants the woman to just only stay in the kitchen and so on. But then that only makes sense if the man can provide, like, pay all the rent, provide everything by themselves, and then the woman doesn't have to do that work at all. But with the inflation, the cost of living, what percentage of men can pay for everything without any contribution from the woman? It's like so minuscule. It's below like 1%. So it's just, the whole thing is, the balance is so out of balance. And people, like, they really don't understand that it's a systematic problem. Like there's men blaming women blaming men. Neither side realizes that it's, obviously both have a part to play, but neither side realizes that it's not just just the women or just the men. Like, no, it's a systematic problem. It goes beyond just the man, like, being a dickhead, or the women doing whatever. Even especially since the birth pill and contraception has come about, and since like this idea that sex, like now it's like normalized, but this idea that sex is like of course like for reproduction, but more sex is about pleasure and just fun. And I still think, yeah, like I understand that like sex is fun, sex is pleasurable, and I think people should like if you want to like you should be able to enjoy sex like without like wanting to reproduce and so on. But it's just so deeply like ingrained now that people are just out here like having sex and so on just like for fun and stuff, and they're having like relationships with no kind of goal. And of course, if you watch a lot of my other videos, I do say there's no like goal to life and so on. And I think you can enjoy a relationship with no like goal or destination that you're going towards if like both parties are conscious enough. However, most people are not conscious enough for that, and there needs to always be a goal. Like we have to be like for with the current like where people's like the mass collective, like where their like level of consciousness is, for relationships to work, there still needs to be like a partnership, and they need like a goal or a direction that they're both moving in like simultaneously, if you get what I'm saying. So why do so many like of these relationships, they might last a couple years or a few months even, is because they're just like trying to come together, like using each other for pleasure or validation or attention, but they have no intention of like staying together for life. Or like me, I'm kind of against like the idea of marriage, like especially the way it is now. It's just so, even marriage, the way the laws have been set, is so, men are almost incentivized now to not get married because it's so like imbalanced. There's so many things that could go wrong. The percentage of marriages that that work out in the end is so small, and the consequences for if the marriage goes wrong for the man are so high that men are no longer want to commit to that. And I understand why. I kind of, but still, you could kind of still have a life partner without like getting married per se, like legally. But like say for example, like if a man and woman want to come together and have a relationship and just enjoy each other's presence, which I think is possible, as I said, if both parties are conscious, and if both parties want that, they don't like even need to have kids. If they're like clear on that, they're just enjoying each other's company, then that would work out. That's possible. But then if like, for example, the man wants a family, but the woman doesn't, or the woman wants a family and the man doesn't, then that's not going to work out. That's not compatible. And like where marriages kind of really came in, like the whole like goal of what they were supposed to be is like it's a contract, because humans, we do have like, we are partially animalistic as well, and if you left it up to just pure chaos, then everyone would be sleeping with everyone, kind of like how it is now a little bit, but everyone would be sleeping with everyone and there'll be children everywhere, no like kind of congruency or anything, right? And you can't really build a society like that. So it's almost like a social contract, one man for one woman, build a family, you know what I'm saying, so on and so forth. It all kind of made sense, but all of that's been undermined now with these laws of marriage and divorce. Men are incentivized to not do that. Inflation's so high that men can't like, the jobs are also, as I said, skewed to women, to where the man is not going to be able to, or yes, there'll be that 1% of top like performing males, and then yeah, they might get all the women, and that's kind of how it is right now. But the average man is not going to be able to earn way more to where they're going to be able to provide that value to the woman of protection and providing. So a lot of the women don't even respect the men nowadays. And then things, as I said, got so over-sexualized as well. And then women kind of now have this idea that men just want them for sex and so on. Which a lot of this thing has even been, obviously men and women both want sex. That's been programmed into us from just million years of evolution and just reproduction. But a lot of these things are being pushed even harder from just suggestions and brainwashing from films and from pornography and all of this kind of stuff. But then, so women have this idea that men just want them for sex. And then now they start like, even just look around, especially these last few years, it's gotten even worse. They start wearing this crazy clothing. Like I'm seeing women like almost dressing like half naked, like as this kind of honey trap to kind of lure them in. But then the men will realize, that she has nothing else to provide other than that, because women think that that's all that they need to provide for the man. Then the man will just provide everything back. And it's just like everything is so unbalanced. Everything is so... Yeah. In a sense, what made relationships work before was the necessity and codependence. But now the codependence has kind of been undermined. And in a sense, that's a good thing, because I don't think people should come together just out of need for survival. And that's why there was, like, even in the past, people say, it was so perfect in the past. And yes, marriages, like, lasted longer and there was less divorce rates. But even divorce was even taboo. And people would stay together even if they hated each other. And in a sense, that's shit as well. So this is good. It's a step in the right direction, but obviously all growing pains, growth takes a lot of pain, and the process until we actually get to the fruits of the other side can be very painful. And that's kind of what we're going through now. And when it is like to where they don't need each other, then it's good, because then they will only come together if they actually want each other. And that's good. However, with like this overstimulation of social media and comparison and always comparing like the top 1%, and even the top 1%, they're not even as good as you think, because you're literally comparing the good side of the top 1% to like the good and bad side of the average guy. And if you're comparing that, then like that's the thing, like men are chasing a fantasy and women are chasing a fantasy. So it's good that both sides don't need each other anymore, so to speak, but we also have to come back to reality a bit and desire men and women that actually fucking exist rather than this idea of like the perfect woman. Like that's the thing as well, this perfectionism, like trying to chase that 10 out of 10. Like there are actually look at it, there's no such thing as a 10 out of 10. That doesn't exist. You can say, you can label that person a 10 out of 10, like, because it's as close to perfect as you think, but like, there's no perfect people. And that's kind of what people are programmed to kind of search right now, and it doesn't exist. And people have feel like, settling is defeat. But you have to settle to some degree. You have to settle for what's true and what's real. If you're like adamant on not settling and chasing, if you're adamant on not settling and getting this high standard, that's fine. But the high standard still needs to be something that exists. But the problem is people are chasing like some ideal thing, some perfect partner that doesn't even exist. Because every person is incomplete and imperfect by definition. All forms are limited. So it's just bound, the way things are right now is bound to fail. But I do feel like this is just a process of evolution and things will get better. It's just that right now we're going through the growing pains, and sometimes the process of evolution can be very messy. But yeah, I'll probably make another video on this where I go a little bit more detailed and maybe make a few notes on it. But yeah, that was a bit of a rambling. But yeah, I think that's a decent perspective.